Instagram, how's it going? Welcome to my studio here in London. If you're not aware of these, I do these studio updates every Wednesday where I just come on and chat about what's been going on. So I had a question this week about my painting process and I get asked about this a lot, so I'm going to share how I build and structure and basically make a painting. I think this is really applicable to abstract painting in particular because for me it's very important that you know the history of your palette and the marks that you're making and how you're structuring and building the painting. So how I do this is through visual diaries. What is a visual diary? So visual diary is a book. I don't know how many other people do this. I was taught this in art school. So I've been teaching or keeping visual diaries for about 10, 12 or maybe longer. And these books serve as like a back catalogue of development of my painting practice. So I know every mark, every colour, everything that goes into a painting, there's a reason for it to be there because I've researched it and I've thought about it, and it's all part of this big oeuvre of work. So it doesn't just come out of nowhere, it's very well thought out. So I'm going to give you a little flick through the most recent entries in this, and then I'm going to show you how they apply to these three recent paintings, so it'll give you an idea of the development. So where will I start? Right. So these are going to look really rudimentary, and excuse my very messy writing, but I've been working with stone wall formations and landscapes for like the last 3 to 4 years, and they all come under the sort of wider umbrella of my interest in the materiality of paint, so the stuff of paint itself and what makes it really interesting. And these are a collection of paint studies. So the paint studies are all very basic, very loose, and very rough, but oh, there's one gone. I use them as a starting point to start thinking about ideas and start thinking about palette and marks and what I want to do. For example, these marks here, I was just playing with the idea of finding lightness within heaviness. So that idea of stone is very heavy, but finding a lightness to it, and playing with the material to achieve that. So like playing with different tonalities, playing with the application of the brush marks. On this page I have this paint study, which I have had on my thinking wall for like ages because I just love it. There's more stuff. And this is all about the blurring of the lines. It's almost like finding the shapes. So it's like finding the shape within the painting. And I know that sounds a wee bit like woo-woo, but it refers to the idea of like letting the material, letting the paint or the pastel or whatever it is do the work and find those shapes. So like I would have done this with my left hand. I am right-handed because I wanted to keep it really loose and imperfect and blurred and, you know, not right, let's say. And then these two paint studies would have been a starting point for me, and I would have developed them for over like the course of maybe 2 or 3 months, and then I knew I wanted to delve into them and merge them in some way, and then speed it up a couple of months to a finished painting. So this painting would have been 100% derived from those initial painting studies. Obviously this is very finished. You know, there's a real sense of conviction. The materials have been decided upon. It's really clear. But these shapes, these loose, blocking, light but heavy, tonal brush mark, that would have all started with that initial paint study that I showed you. And then these push through, loose, uninterrupted marks in the background. Again, I would have done it with my left hand. Oh, there's my phone message. To find. So it's just about being able to solidify a painting and bring it together as whole and it just started with those initial paint studies. And then those paint studies would have informed a lot of other work as well. So it's just merging and building, and the marks develop, and it's like a time thing until it all starts to become really visually robust. And then the second example I'm going to show you is this paint study that I had literally knocking around my studio for months on end. There was something about it that I liked, but I couldn't figure out what it was, but I didn't want to throw it out, and I was looking at it every day and just trying to figure out, ugh, how is this going to sit well. So the thing that was really getting my eye is that everything was coming from, I tend to work from the center, but I wanted to come from the side, so that changed the whole dynamic and how I was going to plan the painting. And also this cutting through these marks, cutting through wet paint, and then this was done with a charcoal, so then you turn the charcoal around and you drag the wet paint up here, so it just creates a whole other conversation with the material, which I find super exciting. So I had that knocking around for ages, and that's how this painting came about. So it looks very different, of course, to the study, but it's using the same idea. Everything is starting from one space. I'm thinking about the paint marks and the layering, and the main thing that I'm doing here is I'm pulling through with a charcoal and cutting through the paint and dragging it off. So it's all these sort of lovely marks all meshing in together, and finding enough space. I always find it's really important to have a balance of space within a painting, so it's not overworked or it's not too much. There needs to be a stillness, like the very worked areas with the very quiet areas, to kind of get a good balance. And then that repeated into this painting. So the same starting point, just a bit more developed here. It's a bit more going on. I've added these float marks, which again would have started from a paint study. What I really wanted to achieve was a hard line and then finish with a nice bristly edge. Looks like a sail, doesn't it? So yeah, that's a little insight into my painting process and how I structure and build and plan out a painting, and it's a really important part of what I do. And yeah, I'm really happy to share and chat about it if you have any further questions. Before I go, I was recently interviewed for London Irish Stories, which I'm quite flattered about. They're an online platform, a blog, and it's an interview, and there's little sound bites, and they're just doing a really wonderful job of highlighting, you know, what people are doing in London, like, and there's a real great host of people, Irish people or people of Irish descent, who are doing great things. So I was really flattered to be included in the mix. And in the interview I talk about my background as a professional dancer. I used to be with Riverdance for, gosh, I don't know, nearly 10 years. I toured the world with them, but I always had my sketchbook and my paint box on tour, and it's definitely helped to inform and shape the type of painting that I make. So if you're interested, yeah, pop over to their website, londonirishstories.com. So thanks as all for tuning in, and hope you have a lovely end to your week. Bye.